Well, howdy y'all, this is Randy, aka Banjo Randy, and I'm a totally blind woodworker getting back into my woodworking. And when I say totally blind, I mean I have no physical eyesight anymore. But I wanted to show y'all my latest, well, it's not my latest, I actually fixed this clocks right here before I made those last 8 cutting boards that I made a video of last week. But these right here are some desk sets that I made. There's 8 of them total here. There's 4 of them that have a pen or pencil holder in the top, and these are made of red oak, and they also have felt on the bottom as well. And like I say, there are 4 of those. Here's what they're like without the clock insert in there. I hope that y'all can again see this. And I'm going to try to explain, that's a different one, how I made these. I used my router and a template to cut out the shape. Now these 4 right here, instead of a pencil or pen or pencil holder in the top, I made a place for business cards instead. And there's 4 of these. Now these right here are made using cherry on the front and back faces and a piece of maple in the middle. And it also has a walnut base. And I also put felt on the bottom of these as well. So let me, yeah. Okay. This here up. Yeah, right there. All right. Now these are the templates that I made right here. This one here is the very first template that I made. It's just a piece of 3/4 inch Luan plywood. This is just a piece of some kind of like pine, I believe, solid pine that I found, that I've made another one, because this in here, you know, it's kind of chewed up from the bearing rolling across it and everything. You know, ingrain, or not ingrain, just the edge grain of this right here plywood's kind of soft anyway, a lot of times. But the first thing I've done, so like I say, is I took a piece of this here 3/4 inch Luan plywood, and then I took some pieces of 1/4 inch plywood, and I made the pieces for the top arch. This right here, I believe, was 3.5 inch diameter hole saw that I used to cut this here out. And these smaller pieces that I used for the ends to get the little curve, I believe they were 1 inch diameter hole saw that I used. So hopefully y'all will be able to maybe see this. Okay. So the first thing I've done was I cut this to, you know, this piece right here, just probably about, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch longer right here. Then I cut it off on the table saw with my miter gauge. Once I've done that, I put these pieces right here. There is a left and right on these. Okay, that would be that piece right here. First thing I done was I put this very first piece on. I hope, again, that I'm in the camera right here. And then I secured it with a couple of screws, getting it as flush to the bottom as I could. And these are countersunk as well. Then I took this top piece, the top radius, and put it where it lined up right there. And then very carefully I took the other one, and I made sure it was flush with the bottom. And then I slid it over just to where both points of the radius met, very carefully. And then I secured this piece right here down, and then I secured the top piece right here. Again, making sure that these points met so it would look like one continuous radius all the way. It's kind of hard to do that when they're not secured now, but at least y'all kind of get the gist of how I did that to start with to make my pattern. Once I did that, like I say, it was cut free, I then took it over to my drill press, and I cut away as much of this excess as I could with the Forstner bit. And once I done that, let me move these pieces here now so I won't lose them. I then took, there's another piece right here. Now, at the time, this template did not have this backstop on there. And then I set it on this piece of wood right here. And I had to make sure that the end, that when I run that router across there, it would be clear and wouldn't hit anything at the end. Like I say, the pieces was on the top side, you know, this way right here. Whenever I run it through, I'm not going to put them all on there, but hopefully y'all get an idea of what I'm trying to say. And I used this here double bearing flush trim / pattern bit to do that in my handheld router right here. You know, I very carefully, of course, very carefully followed the bottom of that, of the profile of the tip of the pieces that I just showed y'all that I cut out. And once that was done, I then took this here pieces off, and then I glued this here backstop on there. And that was just so that when I put a blank on there, like this right here, I wouldn't have to worry about trying to get it as, you know, flush by hand or anything. Now these are some pieces left over from my clocks I made last year. I made 2 of these last year, and this is a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 walnut with a piece of maple in the middle, 1/4 inch maple, because it wasn't tall enough with just these 2 pieces of walnut. It needed to be around 3 1/4 inches. So with that piece of 1/4 inch maple, it made up the difference for me. Right there. And also this round piece that I cut, this extra piece, right there. This is how I come up with the center hole right here on this particular template. Once I had that where it was even right there, I then, you know, took and drilled a little pilot hole right there. And that, it helps me to secure it to the blank. And this right here also is the hole for the clock insert as well. Now whenever I cut these out, this time what I've done, once I got this blank secured, these are just a little bit longer because I plan on doing a different clock with these, a different shape, a different design. So, but basically, I had it to where it's just about probably a 32nd or a 1/16 of an inch, just barely over the edge right there. Once I got that secured, this time what I did instead of taking it to the drill press and using a Forster bit and trying to nibble away material, I use my flush trim saw. Now most people, you know, who can see would take that to a bandsaw and cut all that out, but of course I don't, because I can't see, obviously. Now I like the flush trim saw because there's no set in the teeth. So what I did was I very carefully lined it up right with the edge right there, and then brought it over. Once, I mean, it was secure, of course. Brought it over, and then I cut away the excess. But when I done this, I had to make sure and keep this flush trim saw vertical and not let it drift in or out. Okay. This is a handy dandy little saw right here. There. But I know this is upside down, but you know, it ain't got no teeth there, so I'm okay. I mean, I just very carefully, like I say, made sure to keep it as vertical as I could and followed that till I got it cut. Of course, it was hanging off on the side of my workbench where I wouldn't cut into the top or anything. And I did both sides with that right there. And then I took this other piece of wood right away right there. This old piece of plywood right here. And there's a hole in here right there. And the reason I put that in there is so that when I secure this blank and the template, I used a pocket hole screw to secure the blank, or to secure my template to the blank right here. And of course that pocket hole screw was proud of the surface, so with that hole being there, I could set it over that, make sure that it was, you know, in right there, inside the hole right there, and that way it wouldn't rock around or anything. And there's also a couple of screw holes right there. I don't know if y'all can see them or not, but that's how I secured it to the bottom right here from the underside. And these are countersunk on the other side. And then of course I clamped this to my workbench. And then with this all cut out as much as I could, I very carefully then run the router around there. Well, actually it was this way. Run that router with that same bearing, that same router bit, and cut out the profile right there. It just takes a little while like that, but anyway, I managed to do that. Now these clocks that have the business card slots, now I had to do these a little bit different. These, like I say, are three pieces glued together, and it started out as these pieces right here, except these are 1/2 inch thick and they came 6 inches wide, 24 inches long. This piece right here is cherry because it's got a piece of tape at each end. That's how I identify the cherry wood that I use. And this right here, this is the maple. Of course, this here is another piece of cherry. So when I glued this here up, I made a long enough piece to make 2 blanks, and each blank I could get 2 clocks out of. And the pieces, I ripped them to, I believe it was like 3 3/8. I mean, this wouldn't be tall enough for these particular style clocks, either these or these right here, but I'm going to try to at least show you how I went about doing this. Hopefully, again, that y'all can see that, I hope. This right here put away. So the first thing I done, after I got figured out, well, what I done was I took both of these templates and I put them on the piece of cherry. And then I added 3/4 of an inch to the end. and then I put a scribe line, and then I took it to my table saw and cross cut that piece out. And I'm just going to have to show you how, I did the glue up with this right here. Then I took and made 8 pieces of maple, and they were about 1.125 wide. That's what I determined to get. Let's see. Okay. To where they would be within that arch right there. I figured it was about 1.125 is what I needed on these. So the first thing I done was I took and I clamped one face of the blank to my workbench on the corner. Of course, this is rounded on this countertop. But if this was my workbench right here, I put it to the corner at the edge of it. And I put a piece of old newspaper under it as well. So I took one of the pieces and I put it on the end, and I very carefully, trying to make sure that it was as even at the bottom as possible. Then I took this here particular speed square, I slid it over, and like I say, that till I got that right to the end, and then I clamped this speed square to my tabletop as well. And then what I've done was I took and I put some glue. Of course, let me turn it over. Because I didn't glue it with the tape side facing up, so I sure hope I ain't confusing y'all folks. But anyway, once I had that clamped down to the workbench where it wouldn't move, then I took and put some glue on the edge there and on the edge of the maple piece. Then I put that on there, again making sure it was as flush to the bottom as I could, and then I clamped it. And then I did the same thing to the other end of the blank, except I think I had to use my combination square here because this wouldn't fit in there at the time, so the way it was. So I used the combination square and did the same thing. Got it even at the end of the opposite end of the blank. The square would be right here. And then I put glue on here on the other end, glued it, and then I clamped it. And then I did the second blank on the other side the same way. And then I come back. Let's see here. This time what I did was I made a piece of wood. Business cards are usually 2 inches wide by 3.5 inches long. So I made a piece, ripped it through the table saw that was 2 1/8 inches. Because that way I would have a little bit of wiggle room on each side of the business card, like so. A little bit of wiggle room there. After I'd done that, I had this clamp where it wasn't going to move or anything and glued down. I simply set this piece in there, and then I took another piece right here and I put it there, got it flush to the bottom and clamped it, took that out, and then with the piece on this end, I did the same thing. I'll put this here in there, and then slid this all over until it touched this piece here, and then clamped it down. That way I had the spacing for the business card right there. And that's how I got the 2 clocks out of one blank, and I did the same thing with the other side. And then I had it all clamped down, and I let it set overnight. And then I put the cap piece on, the other face side on. But first I took and scribed some lines where I would know where to put glue on this right here, where I wouldn't hopefully get a lot of glue squeeze out right there where the business card holder goes. And then I simply glued it on, you know, these pieces here and the underside. Put it on there, got that all clamped up, and let that sit overnight, and I did that to both blanks. And then, of course, the next day I took and I cut them free. And I just repeated the process like I did for these blanks right here, you know, or like these clocks right here. I put the template on there, cut away as much excess, like I say, as I could with this here flush trim saw. Got that done. These things up and out of the way. Also, after all these were shaped and routed and everything, you know, I did all my sanding, and then I took and put a profiled edge on here. What I used was a 1/4 inch radius round over. The back side on all these clocks, I took and just like I say, just the round over by itself. But the front side, I let the reveal of the round over be on there. So you'd have that little edge right there. Excuse me. And I also did the same thing on the base down here. On all 8 bases and on all 8 of the clock blank, or the clock body. And then I took and made a jig, which is this piece right here, for centering the pieces together. This opening right here is the same length as the clock body is right here. And it's 1.5 inches wide, just like this right here is 1.5 inches. And I also made this piece right here, which is the same as the bottom of the clock. Well, the clock body. And that way, whenever I put the base up under it, and also the back side of this, I put a rabbet, a 3/8 inch rabbet. That's where the base fits down in there. And I have to remember when I put the base under there to make sure that the profiled edge faced up. But this piece right here is used to find the center hole on the base once I get it put on there. Right there. Now just mark the holes and take it to the drill press and drill a hole with the countersink on the underside. And the way this does, it just slips over just like that right there. And then what I've done was I put glue on the clock body and put it on the base and the jig. And then I took and I slid it over and clamped it to the workbench and then put a screw up under from the bottom side there. Took and turned it around and I did the same thing on this side. And then of course I took it out of the jig. And then I did my final sanding on it. And all these clocks right here, I took and I put 6 coats of a clear water-based satin polyurethane. I put 2 coats on there, and then I did a light sanding with 220. 2 more coats, another light sanding of 220. And then I put on 2 more coats, and then when that dried overnight, I went back and did a light sanding with 400 grit. And then I put 2 coats of Minwax brand paste wax on these. But I don't think these turned out too bad. Excuse me. Okay. Like I say, these are red oak right here. And these right here are the ones that I made with the cherry, maple, and cherry, and with the walnut base. But I hope that maybe this kind of helped to explain how I did this and, you know, my process for doing this as a totally blind person. You know, if I could see, it would sure make things a lot easier, cutting things out and stuff like that. But I just want people who can see to know that just because I'm totally blind does not mean that I'm helpless or that I can't do things, especially woodworking. I've always loved detail work. You know, when I could see, I've done paint and body work as well, and I always enjoyed that because you have to spend a lot of attention to detail with paint and body work. Well, it's the same way by these little clocks as well. Of course, like I say, I put felt and all on the bottom down there so it won't slide around or mar a tabletop or anything. But I do have a disability. I am totally blind. However, I do not consider myself disabled whatsoever because I can do things. And I want to say to anybody that might listen or watch this video, if you have a disability, I just want to say never ever give up on your hopes and dreams, because there are things that people with disabilities can do, as y'all see right here with woodworking, being totally blind. It, like I say, I hope that maybe this helped people to get an idea of what it's like as a blind person doing woodworking. And I hope that, like I say, this video was a blessing to somebody. I guess probably I'm not the greatest at trying to explain things to people, how I do things, but it's not easy because when I'm downstairs working, all this is second nature to me. I don't have to stop, think what process I do this and explain myself to anybody. But anyway, I certainly hope that this was a blessing, and to all y'all out there and me who do woodworking, let's be careful in the shop, and wear the proper safety equipment and, hearing protection, safety glasses. And I do wear these glasses, like I say. This is an old pair of prescription glasses. I used to wear them when I could see. But I already had these, so there wasn't no need of me buying any more glasses. And plus, I wear a full face shield as well whenever I'm downstairs working. But again, I certainly hope that this was a blessing, and I sure hope that everybody has a wonderful and blessed day, and y'all folks keep smiling and have a good one. See here, it's here somewhere. Okay, I think I found it.
Take picture, button. Stop recording video, button.